is advised.
Hey everyone, this video is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering you a free audiobook with a 30-day free trial membership. All you need to do is go to audibletrial.com/bgunlocked. The link is in the description below, and now enjoy the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a no run-through review for the expansions to Dark Souls the card game, which is the Forgotten Paths expansion and the Seekers of Humanity expansion. So, here's the thing, I didn't even know that Steamforged had made the Seekers of Humanity expansion. Like, I think someone on like my commented on one of them, was like, "Hey, you want to talk about the new one?" And I'm like, "What new one?" Like, they just for some reason have been extremely quiet about this game, and I don't know why. It is vastly superior to the board game in every way, honestly, in every single way. That I love this. Like, I'll keep buying expansions to this, and I will never touch the board game again. So, why? What makes these expansions so great? Which, first of all, spoiler, I think both of them are fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the Forgotten Paths expansion first. So, first of all, both of the expansions give you more characters to play as well as more bosses to fight, mini bosses or whatever you're going to call them, as well as like end game bosses. So there you go. That already gives you a bunch of variety, but each of them bring in something new to the game. And so the Forgotten Paths, it brings in traps and terrain cards, which what's really cool about these is that they modify and make each encounter kind of unique. So with the traps and the terrain, well, first of all, they're not always going to come out. Like, you could play an entire game and never even see a trap or terrain. They're basically like part of certain locations. So for example, the Narrows here has an icon that means that there's two traps here. So whenever you go to the Narrows, you will draw a monster, a minion card, and you will place a trap in the spot where the minion would attack. And that's just to set up the trap. This minion doesn't actually even come out. So since there are two, then I would draw another one, and another trap would get placed in that spot. Now, what makes this pretty cool is that it makes you a little bit more weary of how you're going to fight these monsters, because because movement is so important. Like, where you go, that you can only attack, in the column that you're at, unless you have, special cards that ignore that. So whenever you move into a spot with a trap, you trigger it and then you flip it. And in this case, this one says it's a pitfall. The player who triggered this trap must discard one equipment card if they have any in their hand. Okay, and these aren't like detrimental. The next one is Shattered Foot. This card enters the hand of the player that triggered it. It takes up the space of one of their cards. This card is not removed until the player spends 3 stamina to clear it or the party rests at the bonfire. Now, what I really like about these traps is they're not game breaking. They're not going to be like, oh, insta-death. Like, that would just be awful. The game's already hard enough as it is. But they are kind of annoying. Like, because hand size is so important. So having, a Shattered Foot take up one of your spots so you really only have 5 cards, yeah, but that's not like, oh, nope, you can only have 2 cards in your hand, or something like awful, like really shitty, where it's not even fun. Like, that's something you'd have to work around. Having to, discard an equipment card, yeah, that sucks because you might really want that equipment, but hey, you willingly moved into the trap. And a lot of them, honestly, actually have ways for you to ignore it. Spike traps. The player who triggered this trap must spend 1 stamina or suffer 3 damage. And honestly, there's a bunch in here that are just lucky escapes, which are no effect. So I really like that. I like the fact that they're not so damaging that it's just unfun. But I also like that there's chances for you to completely mitigate it or not even take damage, depending on if you draw the lucky escape. So the trap cards are really cool. Then you also have the terrain cards, and the terrain cards make locations unique. because the traps are going to be different whenever you go there, but the terrain will be assigned to that location. So, for example, if I drew the Asylum Gates, which has a terrain thing, I would draw a terrain which now has Treacherous Footing, which says each time a card is pushed in this encounter, the card suffers 1 damage. Okay, fantastic. That only depends on if there's a lot of enemies that happen to show up there that also cause pushing. So once again, terrain cards can be really bad, or they can just, you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to be pushed around that with potential to fall off. But the next thing that's really cool is that now this Asylum Gates will always have Treacherous Footing, so you might be a little bit more wary to go there, because who knows, you might draw some encounters where they knock you around and push you over, and then you're going to be suffering more damage going there. But once again, you might never draw a location that has that, which could be really good or really bad depending on your perspective. Like, there are so many cards for each of these that it's like, okay, well, I would like to see some traps because, I paid for the expansion, that I'd like to use it. But you can also willingly just play cards. Like, you don't have to throw everything into the deck that has one. You can just find all the ones that have those symbols, the terrain and trap symbols, and just, okay, there you go. Filter it to where that you will encounter those. There is absolutely nothing stopping you, because you're only ever going to draw 5 total location cards a game, and those are going to stay like that the entire time. So you have ways to actually choose what you want to do with that expansion. So I like those. I personally actually like the variety, the suspense of drawing and be like, okay, where am I going now? Oh crap, it's the Asylum Gates. Okay, what's the terrain? Bog. During this encounter, whenever a character moves during its activation, the character must spend 1 stamina to do so. It's like, oh, that sucks, because, and especially in a solo game, it's like if I need to move around, I just need to move around. So I really like those. Now it also brings in the Pyromancer and the Thief as character classes that you can play as. And I actually just got done playing as the Pyromancer, and he was quite a bit of fun. Like, I like how all the characters are actually built in almost a specific way, but you are not limited to that character class. You're gonna start. He starts with a lot of intelligence and mostly faith, mainly intelligence and faith and some strength. And then he has his Pyromancer, Pyromancy Flame, which allows him to attack everything in the same column. But so you are going to kind of want to aim to go intelligence, but you don't have to. I can just start buying a bunch of strength and dexterity based off the treasures that I find. So he was pretty cool. His ability was really nice too, which is flip this card over to gain +2 damage against a single enemy card on an attack with the sorcerer type or the magic type. That's really nice. So he was cool. Then, the bosses that it brings in are the Asylum Demon, the Bell Gargoyles, Great Grey Wolf Sif, and the Moonlight Butterfly. So, I have never actually completed Dark Souls all the way. I've watched a lot of playthroughs. I've actually only ever beaten Sekiro and Bloodborne for From Software games. But I got... Where did I get to? I got to... Oh man, one of the towers, like the towers with like the lizard people. That's as far as I got. But I know that these bosses are I very much know these bosses. You have to fight the Asylum Demon. You have to fight the Bell Gargoyles. I've never actually gotten to Great Grey Wolf Sif or the Moonlight Butterfly. So those are there. So. With that being said, on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't know why I keep looking at the core game box, I'm going to give the Forgotten Paths expansion an 8 out of 10. I think this is a very solid and fun expansion. And the reason why it's not higher, which I still think is an 8 is fantastic, so I don't know why I'm justifying it, but the reason why it could be a 9, but I personally would like to see the traps and then the encounters show up a little bit more. I know I said that you can mitigate it, but but you should have a higher chance. And who knows, you easily could, like, next game I play of this, I could easily just only draw those, and it'd be perfectly fine. But yeah, the next thing is that it's also, and this is going to be for both of these expansions, they're kind of overpriced, I feel like. And I know that usually shouldn't affect it, but it's like you're really getting cards, and you're kind of paying for the name. So those are a few things but an 8 is still a phenomenal score, especially for an expansion. So let's talk about this one. This is the brand new one, Seekers of Humanity. This one is really cool too. Like I said, both of these expansions bring in something completely unique and make the card game a lot more thematic and close to the video game. So, of course, it adds new encounters and locations, so you have even more variety of what you want to play. It brings in the cleric and the warrior character classes, so you have both of those. Now you actually have a healer starting class. Not sure how that would work in a solo game, but you never know. I mean, if you're constantly healing yourself, well, then you probably would do all right. But this game brings in Invaders, and these are really, really cool. So what Invaders do is that at the start of the game, you have these tokens that you shuffle, and then you draw one of them. And the token tells you who you should grab. And in this case, I got the Armorer Dennis Invader card. So what you do is you take their encounter card, and you shuffle it into the encounter, monster deck that it goes in. So Armorer Dennis goes into the level 1 monster encounters. And you may draw him. It's a similar situation with the traps and the terrain. He, especially as a level 1, this is the deck for level 1s. So that's one card. He may never show up. In fact, I had to go out of my way to fight him because I wanted to experience what the Invaders were like before talking about the expansion. And I'm glad I did, because the Invaders are really neat. They are essentially mini bosses. The Invaders have their own deck of fighting cards. In this case, they only have he only has 4, but they also have unique rules. Armorer Dennis has an immunity in addition to a weakness. So, for example, his Soul Greatsword, he's immune to whatever type heavy attacks, but he is weak to dex attacks and things like that. But what makes these guys pretty freaking sweet is that, one, if you beat them, then you get some souls. But each of them have their own unique treasure card that goes into your loot pile. And his is Clear Bluestone Ring. While this card is in your hand, each time you perform an action, you may change one stamina to a wild. And that is super sweet. So I like that. I like the fact that, just like the video game, you may never get invaded. But you probably will, especially if you're using Embers, which this game, or this expansion, brings in. So Embers, there are 5 of them that come with it. So you shuffle them into your main treasure deck, which mine's that big with all the expansions. So each time you draw an Ember, you will shuffle a token, and you'll draw it, and then you'll add another Invader, because you're using more and more Embers, which then cause you to be more of a target. Now, what Embers do is they increase as long as it's in your deck, they increase your deck size by 3. You can only have 1 Ember per person, so it's not like you're going to have, 15 cards, so you're not going to have 55 cards by the end of the game. You can only have a single Ember to each player's deck, but that doesn't take away from the fact that even if you draw it, you still have to put an Invader in. So it's not each Ember into your deck. But I like that. I think that that's also incredibly thematic. And like I said, these Invaders, it's not like boom, you're immediately going to fight them. Some of them will go in this level 3. You have a higher chance of drawing them because the deck for a level 3 is there. Then you have the level 2s, and then you have the level 1s. So it's I really like it. I thought that they were fun, but not impossible to beat. Like if you were on your way, and they show up just like it's not just them. Unlike the bosses, where the bosses that's who you're fighting. You can go up in a spot where it's like, okay, well I'm gonna draw level 3, and okay, well there's 3 level 1 minions, so I have to fight an under attack dog, a hollow manservant, and then a hollow infantry axeman. Oh wait, the undead attack dog brings in another undead attack dog. Oh, great! I also, drew fucking like, whatever his name is, Armorer Dennis. So now there's 4 things I have to fight. So now that's even more of a threat. So that is just it's really cool. I really like the Invaders. Then you also have the 4 bosses for that. You have the Last Giant, Old Iron King, the Pursuer, and the Smelter Demon. And I can tell you from experience, the Smelter Demon and the Old Iron King are not pushovers. I have never actually fought them in the video game, so I don't know. The boss that kicked my ass the most in the first game was, as far as I got, was that chick with the spider lava chick. She was something else. But yeah, so in all honesty, like if you're deciding, okay, which one should I get? I would pick the Seekers of Humanity expansion because I think the Invaders are really neat. The fact that they are kind of a slight mini boss because they each have their own it's a small deck, but they have their own special ability, their own special deck, and their own special treasure card. That is really neat. And the fact that you can draw an Ember, which will increase your deck size, which in this game is already very tight and restricted on how many cards you can have in your deck, getting a little bit more freedom is very helpful. But I'm going to give the Seekers of Humanity expansion an 8.5. Pretty much kind of for the same reason as the Forgotten Paths, was that you have to kind of go out of your way. You have to filter the decks in a specific way. Not that it's hard, you could easily do that. But the fact that you have to go out of your way and be like, okay, well, I want to make sure I'm going to be fighting the Invaders. Or getting the Embers. Because like I said, there's 5 Embers, and this is the treasure deck. So the chances of you drawing them is slim to none. So it's like you may not experience, but boy, when you do, it is so fun. But if money wasn't an issue, of course that could be said for anything. I would get both, because you're gonna have to. You just want more bosses, right? You want more. Characters to play as. You want more locations. You want more heroes. You want more versatility. That I would recommend getting both, but at the same time, it might come down to your boss preference, because at the end of the day, both this and the board game, it comes down to the boss fights, and in even the video game, it comes down to the boss fights. So, if you want Last Giant, Old Iron Kings, Pursuer, or Smelter Demon, or you want Asylum Demon, Bell Gargoyles, Great Grey Wolf, Sif, or Moonlight Butterfly, that might be the decision you'd have to come to in order to decide which expansion you want. But I am very, very pleased with Steamforge Games in how they're handling the card game. I don't know how many bosses there are in the first Dark Souls. I would be extremely pleased. Let's see, what else could they do? They could bring in support. They could how you can get summons on your side to help you fight. They could... That's pretty much it. They could do that. They could do probably 1 more expansion and then 4 more bosses. I don't know. I really don't know who's missing. I'd have to take a look at the list of bosses. But what they for sure could do is just boss expansions. That would be fantastic. Boss expansions and unique, more treasures. And then if they really wanted to go far, they could start doing Dark Souls 3 like bring in those bosses, because that would be a blast too. Fuck Dark Souls 2. So yeah, that is my thoughts on the Forgotten Paths expansion and the Seekers of Humanity expansion. Let me know what you think of these expansions in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.